Throughout history, the discovery of new lands has been one of the most transformative events for humanity. But perhaps one of the most iconic moments of exploration was the discovery of America, an event that shaped the world we live in today. But who were the explorers, and how did they change the course of history? Let's explore the fascinating journey of how America was discovered. Many centuries before Columbus, the Vikings were already exploring the North Atlantic. Led by figures like Leif Erikson, they reached the shores of North America around the year 1000, well before most other Europeans. But their settlement, called Vinland, was short-lived and largely forgotten by history. Why didn't the Vikings colonize America? There were likely multiple reasons: harsh climates, conflict with indigenous peoples, and their primary focus on other regions. But their journeys remain significant as the earliest known European exploration of the Americas. Fast forward to the late 15th century. Europe was on the brink of a new era of exploration. Spain and Portugal were leading the way, seeking new trade routes to the riches of Asia. But one man's ambitions would forever change the course of history. Enter Christopher Columbus, an Italian navigator working for Spain. Columbus believed that sailing west from Europe would lead to Asia. What he didn't know was that an entirely new continent lay in between. In 1492, Columbus set sail with 3 ships, the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and the Niña, on a voyage that would change the world. After months of perilous travel across the vast Atlantic, Columbus and his crew landed in the Caribbean, convinced they had reached Asia. But what they had actually discovered was a new world. On October 12, 1492, Columbus reached the island of Guanahani, part of the Bahamas. What followed was the first of many encounters between Europeans and the indigenous peoples of the Americas. While Columbus thought he had encountered Indians, he had actually landed in the Caribbean, far from the Asian lands he sought. The Taino, an Arawak-speaking people, were the first indigenous group to interact with the Europeans. Despite initial peaceful exchanges, the consequences of these encounters would prove devastating for them and other native peoples. Columbus's discovery of the Americas did not go unnoticed. Spain, now aware of the riches to be found in the New World, began to send more explorers and conquistadors to the Americas. Over the next century, the Spanish Empire would expand its presence in the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. However, this period marked the beginning of profound and often devastating changes for indigenous cultures. European diseases, such as smallpox, wiped out entire populations. The demand for precious metals and land led to the exploitation and forced labor of native peoples. As Columbus's voyages paved the way for further exploration, other European nations were quick to follow. Spain and Portugal led the charge, but France, England, and the Netherlands were not far behind. Each nation sought their stake in the Americas, leading to a race for territory, resources, and dominance in the New World. By the early 17th century, French explorers had established settlements in Canada and along the Mississippi River. While the English founded their first permanent colony at Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607. Over the following centuries, European nations carved up the Americas, establishing colonies along both coasts and throughout the interior. These new colonies often had profound consequences, not only for the indigenous peoples but also for the African continent. The demand for labor in the New World led to the forced importation of millions of African slaves, creating a brutal system of exploitation that lasted for centuries. Meanwhile, the Europeans, with their advanced weaponry, would eventually dominate the Americas, laying the foundations for the modern nations we see today. The legacy of Columbus's voyages and the subsequent European exploration of the Americas is complex. While the arrival of Europeans in the Americas led to the creation of vast empires and the modern world as we know it, it also led to the destruction of ancient civilizations, the loss of cultures, and the exploitation of millions. Today, indigenous peoples continue to fight for recognition and the preservation of their cultures. At the same time, the Americas have become a melting pot of different cultures and peoples, shaped by the encounters of the past. Columbus's discovery of the Americas may have been an accident, but the effects of his voyages were anything but. The world was forever altered, and the Americas became the stage for one of the most transformative periods in human history. The story of the discovery of America is one of exploration, conflict, and cultural exchange, one that continues to unfold to this very day. If you enjoyed, then like and subscribe.